President Biden is in Normandy, France right now, marking the 80th anniversary of the D-Day invasion in World War II. The visit comes less than 48 hours after the White House went into fresh damage control, attacking a Wall Street Journal report. But you don't have to be behind closed doors to see what the report is talking about. It happened just hours ago on the world stage. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Compagno, here with my co-hosts Kayleigh McEnany and Harris Faulkner. And also joining us today, host of Good Day New York on Fox 5 and host of the Fox Nation special, The Sanctuary Trap, Rosanna Scotto, and host of Making Money on Fox Business, Charles Payne. Now, concerns about Biden's age and mental acuity are a recurring threat to his re-election bid, one that he's unlikely to outrun. The White House can push back on reports and attack Republicans, but all it takes is one halting on-camera moment, like this morning in France, surrounded by world leaders and a global audience.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin III, Secretary of Defense of the United States of America.
The president appeared to try to find his seat while others stood, awaiting Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin to take the stage. And in a preview of an upcoming interview, the president makes a wild claim about how long he's known Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I've known him for over 40 years. He's concerned me for 40 years. He's not a decent man. He's a dictator, and he's struggling to make sure he holds this country together while still keeping this assault going.
Oof. They just keep coming, Charles.
Yeah. Well, you know, you said it took, all it takes is one haunting moment. There's been a series of them, almost daily, in fact. So it might take more than that. You know, I understand that Democrats have backed themselves into a corner. The clock is ticking. There was some scuttlebutt about what may happen at the convention in terms of replacing him or attempting to replace him. But at some point, you know, you can keep telling the American public, hey, you're not seeing what you're seeing, but we are. And I think this is where they've boxed themselves into a corner. You can't say on one hand it's a gaffe. It's either a gaffe or a lie. Either he's losing it or he repeatedly lies about things. Those are your only two options at this point. And I think the better part is just to be honest and say, hey, you know, there's something, the president is slowing down mentally. And the fact of the matter is that, do we want that to be our commander in chief? And
what I'm construing here, Kayleigh, is that it's just become undeniable, that it's not once in a while, it's actually all the time. And even CNN has commented how, yes, it's gotten to be a lot. Let's watch.
You don't keep tabs on Democrats that the Wall Street Journal is interviewing and then have them circle back to highlight Biden's strength if you are darn sure and you don't think this isn't a vulnerability. They know, and it's not going away. He's not going to age backwards. This isn't Benjamin Button here. This is Joe Biden.
Yeah, that was a really strange movie. I saw Benjamin Button. And no, Biden is not Benjamin Button, though he may wish he is. I'm really intrigued about what's going on behind the scenes. Politico said the White House is seething at the latest Wall Street Journal piece. Wall Street Journal had 45 sources. They were from both sides of the aisle. And Politico says the White House has gone through several iterations of how to deal with this. First, they tried humor. You remember Dark Brandon. He's not old. He's Dark Brandon with the aviators. Humor didn't work. Then they tried just owning it. He's the wide, old, sagacious grandfather. That didn't work. So now they said, as of Wednesday, the new strategy from the White House is fury. Morning Joe, one of Joe Biden, reportedly one of his favorite people, went out and called this a Republican hit piece. And Andrew Bates in the White House tweeted about Joe Scarborough 9 times, because there's nothing else to tweet about. The president isn't on a foreign trip on D-Day. No, 9 times about Joe Scarborough in defense of this age piece. It's really interesting to me because the fury is at journalists for doing their job. According to Politico, the White House is mad at the Washington Post because they do TikTok pieces. They're mad at the New York Times because they talk about age. Now they're mad at the Wall Street Journal. At a certain point, you have to quote Hamlet, that infamous reference to Hamlet and Shakespeare, "Thou doth protest too much, my lady." You are in denial. To your point, Emily, it's undeniable.
Rosanna, what do you make of this all?
You know what? As some of us are taking care of older family members, when you look at Joe Biden, you have empathy for him because, you know what your family members are going. You feel badly for him, and yet he's in this predicament where the Democrats will not let him go. They're saying, oh, he's wise. And we should respect the fact that he is our elder. He comes with great experience. And I get it. Some people at that age are remarkable. Last night, I'm going to drop a name. I was with feminist icon Gloria Steinem, 90 years young. This woman had every faculty going. She dropped more F-bombs than I have in my entire life. Okay? I loved her. I couldn't, but that's not Joe Biden. Joe Biden makes up stories. I don't know. You know, Kayleigh, you were talking about, is it lie after lie? Charles, lie after lie? Does he believe it? I don't know. But for those of us who are dealing with family members who either have dementia or Alzheimer's, we look at him and we say, what's really going on there? I'm concerned for him, his family, and the United States.
Yeah. Harris, I wanted to get your thoughts on this, because at the end of the day, we are entering into a presidential election for this country, right? And it's a candidate that we are talking about, not just our current president. Let's show what the other candidate, or presumed candidate, has to say about the perception of Biden. Let's watch.
How significant an issue is this?
Look, we are...
Because I don't think you could sit here and have this conversation.
We have a chance of going into World War III because of our leader. So I don't want to get into what state he's in. You know, it's in one way, it's not something for me to talk about. I can tell you this: President Xi of China, Putin, Kim Jong-un, all of these leaders are at the top of their game. Mentally, they're at the top of their game, and they're dealing with somebody that's not at the top of his game. Look. We have a man that shouldn't be doing this job. He's not qualified. He's not mentally sharp enough. And I don't believe he was 20 years ago either. All I'm trying to do is lay out the facts. Lay out the facts. We have to have somebody that's sharp and strong.
Look, you know, as we watched today, that was what I was asking really almost immediately. What are the world leaders who are today for D-Day, the 80th anniversary of the war that so changed the world, World War II, with our heroes there landing on Omaha Beach, which is where the president's, we're watching this live now, so they're on where the first Marines and Americans and Allied forces landed. What are they saying to him today? What are those conversations like today? Are we going to see another scene where he's up on that dais and he didn't know whether he should stand or sit, as we saw earlier today? Look, this isn't a pick on the president moment. This is a point out the frailty moment. This is a point out the acuity gaps moment. I had a Democrat guest on yesterday, and this is rather disturbing to me, because if you're going to go and attack the other party, at least read the article. So within hours of the Wall Street Journal article on the president's acuity and lack thereof, 45 Democrat and Republican lawmakers interviewed for that, and current members of the administration under Biden interviewed for that article. Brad Howard went on, regular guest on our power panel, always bipartisan there, and he quoted what sounds like today the White House talking points, all about how it's a hit piece. Well, how could it be if you actually read the article? And then the question from the Democrats and from the White House today is, well, why didn't more Democrats stand up then and tout for the president, what blah, blah, blah? I don't know. Y'all should be asking each other that, I suppose. Why didn't anybody want to go on the record? That sounds like a you problem. But for this is an our problem. This is an American problem. To see a president today surrounded by, and all I can do is pray that it stays together better than that should I stand or sit moment on the dais this morning.
That's right. And at the end of the day, to your point, don't blame the umpire if it's a ball, and
Correct.
if it's a strike. These journalists are calling the strikes as they see it.
What we see.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.